Welcome to the County Manager's Report. I'm Lloyd Higuera. With me is Douglas County Manager Steve Mokrohiski. And Steve, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Lloyd.
Yeah, 2014.
I can't believe
Here
it.
we are.
Time flies.
It sure does.
Yeah,
it sure does.
It's 2013 was a good year. We're excited about where we're going and looking forward to a good 2014.
And we've already had our first meeting of 2014 on January 6th. And that's what we're here to do, talk about that meeting. And of course, at the beginning of the year, a new year, it's always time for the Board of Commissioners to select a new chairman and vice chairman. And who was selected this time?
So as you said, and Commissioner Lynn was our chairman during 2013. Commissioner Doug Johnson was our vice chairman during 2013. So the board every year has this discussion. And I think it went really well. And in fact, I would say this was one of the smoothest elections of chair and vice chair since I've been in Douglas County. So it worked out really well. Commissioner Nancy McDermott nominated Doug Johnson to be the chair, and Commissioner Penzel seconded that motion, and there's a unanimous vote in favor of Doug Johnson being the chair. So Doug Johnson is now the chair of the board for 2014. Congratulate Doug. And of course, he's the longest serving commissioner on the board. And this is the last term that he has in office before he's termed out. And he has also served as chair before. So he's relatively comfortable with this role and has done it in the past. And so we look forward to working with Doug in that fashion. And then Commissioner Greg Lynn, who was the chair, nominated Nancy McDermott to be the vice chair. It was seconded by Barry Penzel again, and unanimous vote by the commissioners. So both our chair, Doug Johnson, and our vice chair, Nancy McDermott, were unanimously approved by the board, and really smooth transition process there. And we look forward to working with both of them and having really positive and productive discussions at our board meetings in the future.
Okay, well, great. Congratulations to both of them. Also, commissioners approved a $200,000 agreement for the allocation and distribution of State of Nevada catalyst funds. That's to Christech Interconnects. That's a new business locating here in Douglas County. And the agreement does require that they create 50 new jobs. That's good news.
Right, it does. And this is the Catalyst Fund is a fund that was established by the governor and the legislature during the 2011 legislative session. And they put $10 million in a pot of money statewide that could be used. It's really incentive money for businesses to relocate. And they wanted to allow, we don't do a lot of incentives in Nevada. We have a low-cost tax structure here, high quality of life. And so we think we're an attractive region for businesses to relocate. Also, our proximity to California has a lot of strategic benefits. So the state provided this $10 million to just allow for a little bit of additional incentive to get businesses over the hump to help with some relocation costs and those initial startup costs. So in this case with Christech Interconnects, the agreement is they can earn up to $200,000 in this state funding. And the way that it works is their period one, after the first 18 months that their business has started, or when they create the first 25 jobs, they can earn up to $80,000. Or $3,200 per job. They won't get any funding for any jobs less than 15. Then the second period is after 30 months, they can get up to an additional $60,000, $1,500 per job, and they don't get any funding until after they've hit the 25 positions. And then the third period is after 42 months, they can get an additional $60,000, $1,200 per job, and no funding for fewer than 40 jobs. So there's this criteria that is met, and of course then we, the county, collect the payroll records from those businesses to verify that actually they've created these jobs, they have these people on their payroll. We determine what the average wage per job is. There's a threshold that they have to have an average minimum wage, which it's our understanding is about a little over, close to $19 per hour. Is the hourly wage that they have to maintain on an average basis. So all that criteria, all that review and accountability analysis we do before that money gets transferred from the state through the county to this business. And we're really excited about Christech being here. They've already hired 5 employees. They're living here, have purchased homes in Douglas County, and we're excited about this business. This is the first company in Douglas County that has taken advantage of the Catalyst Fund, and one of the first in the state of Nevada. So there was a lot of discussion about the Catalyst Fund, how these funds are going to be appropriated, what the accountability is, ensuring that, we make sure that all the criteria is met before that money goes there and that we track all of it appropriately.
And that's 50 new jobs, and
Right.
they have great incentive to put those 50 jobs online.
Absolutely, yeah, and that was the intent, again, was one-time sort of relatively upfront money to help those businesses in the first few years of the startup really get over those financial hurdles.
And they should be decent paying jobs too. There's
Right.
in that high-tech industry.
Right, yeah. Yeah,
So-
that's our anticipation, so we're excited about that and moving forward positively with, and we'll talk in a minute about additional economic investments and development that's going on.
Okay. Also, commissioners heard a presentation from the sheriff's office on the New Year's holiday activities, specifically, I think, New Year's Eve at Lake Tahoe.
Right, which of course is a national and international draw. We
Absolutely.
Tens of thousands of people that come to the south shore of Lake Tahoe to celebrate. They always want to come out from the restaurants and bars, and they want to congregate on the street. And so the challenge from a law enforcement standpoint is to control all that traffic, to make sure that people are able to have the fun that they want to have on New Year's Eve, but that the relative peace of the community is kept, that no major incidences are caused. And our Douglas County Sheriff's Office just does an outstanding job. Sheriff Perini and his staff really have this dialed in, and they've been doing it for many years. The planning that goes into this, most people are not aware of, but it's significant. Once again, this event was managed without major incidents. There were 24 arrests that were made. Interestingly, Commissioner Penzel brought this up, that in Las Vegas, there were 6 arrests on the Strip on New Year's Eve and 6 arrests in the downtown area in Las
That's
Vegas.
all?
So 12 arrests on New Year's Eve in Las Vegas, 24. So he commented that our sheriff's office is doing twice as good as the law enforcement folks in Las Vegas. But we do, our folks take care not to be overly impeding on the fun that people are having, but to maintain the peace there. Did a great job, and I think a relatively quiet New Year's Eve for residents and visitors.
Okay, very good. Commissioners adopted a resolution implementing the hazard mitigation plan for Douglas County. Can you tell us a little more about that plan?
Yeah, and the original hazard mitigation plan was adopted by Douglas County in 2008, and we typically do a 5-year update to that plan, as we do with most of our major plans. And as it indicates, the hazard mitigation plan is to look at what potential natural disasters, hazards do we have that we want to make sure we have a plan for, so we're prepared in the event that they may occur. So 2008 it was originally adopted, came back and have reviewed that. It was the original plan was reviewed by the Nevada Department of Emergency Management. It was approved by FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Association, contained over 190 pages, and served as the basis for fuels mitigation projects in the Tahoe Basin and flood drainage projects in the Carson Valley. So really a significant planning document there. So went through, did that update, built strategies on how to mitigate these hazards, and I think, as most people know, that the major hazards that we face, involve, and this is in priority order: flood, number 1.
Sure.
Wildland fire, number 2, which of course, thankfully, we haven't seen any major flooding events in several years. Wildland fires, unfortunately, we've seen several of these: the Bison fire, the TRE fire. Of course, we had the Rim fire in California that impacted the valley with smoke for several weeks. So wildland fire is a significant threat. Number 3 is earthquakes. 4 is drought. Interestingly, in the 2008 plan, it said that drought was not a significant threat.
Interesting.
As a hazard. And of course, we know now, with particularly the light snowfall that we've had over the last, we're 3 years in a row now where we've had really light snowpack, which impacts the drought conditions here. And then it also impacts the wildland fire conditions. Drought is number 4, severe weather is 5, and then it goes on with epidemic, volcano, tsunami. Tsunami, interestingly, Lake Tahoe. If you had an earthquake type event, it could cause a tsunami type situation in the Lake Tahoe area.
Are you telling me that water up there could come down here?
I'm not necessarily saying it could come down here, but it certainly could impact those in the Tahoe Basin.
Sure.
Infestation, land subsidence, avalanche, and expansive soil. So those are the top 12 hazards that we're dealing with in Douglas County, in a really solid planning effort by the East Fork Fire and Paramedic Districts and all of our staff around Douglas County and the towns and GIDs.
So there's a solid plan for each one of those emergencies.
There is, yeah. Yes,
That's why it was 190 pages. I
Right,
guess.
the original plan was, a lot of that has been condensed and consolidated, and there are a lot of other plans that exist that are referenced through the hazard mitigation plan. But it's a really, I think, a solid, comprehensive plan to deal with those future risks that we have.
If somebody was interested in that plan, they could probably get a look at it, right?
Absolutely, it's available for, we do try to keep, it's available to the public for review, so if anyone's interested, they can contact, I would suggest they contact the East Fork Fire and Paramedic District, contact the county manager's office to review that, so it's available for the public. We try to be careful because some of these things deal with Homeland Security type events, whether it be securing our water supplies and those kind of things, that there is some information that we don't want necessarily widely distributed to those who would want to cause harm to us, but certainly any of our residents that are interested in reviewing that can have access to it.
Okay. Also at the meeting on January 6th, the commissioners heard a report on the audited financial statement for the last fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013. What did the report have to say?
And we do this every year. Nevada revised statutes requires that we do an audited financial statements from the prior fiscal year, and so this is consistent with what we've done in the past. Positive position, as we have been now for several years. I think that's a story here in Douglas County, that we really have turned our finances around, particularly from the downturn in the economy. We've always managed our budget in the black, as they say, but we've got our budget in a more stable position so that we can continue to fund quality services responsibly going forward. But we managed our budget effectively in fiscal year 12-13. Our net assets totaled $243 million, which is an increase of about $6.2 million. Of course, we're building some new facilities, the Community and Senior Center. We built the North County water line, so we have these regional water projects, regional major facilities that are being constructed. So we will see an increase over the next few years in the overall value of our assets. Long-term liabilities total $50 million, an increase of 12.9, primarily related to the bonds that we issued for the financing the Community and Senior Center. Our ending fund balance in the county's governmental funds, we have 62 funds in Douglas County, total $54.2 million, which was an increase of $14.1 million. Our total ending fund balance in the general fund was $8.5 million, which is an increase of $1.1 million over the prior year. So we're in a positive cash position. We have reserves that have been established, emergency reserves, equipment reserves, contingencies that are in place, and there were some minor findings, some internal control items, as is typical with Douglas County and most local government organizations. The auditors tend to find minor areas where there are opportunities to correct the internal control processes between our finance department and treasurer's office. So we identified those. A new thing this year is we're bringing those findings forward more proactively and transparently. We're presenting those findings and we're saying, here's our action plan to rectify those challenges. So we're trying to be really upfront about that and embrace the areas where we can improve. And that wasn't always the case in the past, where you could always find the findings, but we didn't necessarily always call them out. So we continue to build, I think, on a record of openness and transparency in what we're doing in Douglas County.
Great. So it sounds like the county is in pretty good shape financially.
We're pleased with where we're headed, yeah.
Well, also at that meeting, commissioners heard a presentation from the Northern Nevada Development Authority on their projects and activities. And of course, you alluded to that when you're talking about CRISTEC. I guess NNDA was a part of getting them to come here?
They were. NNDA, Northern Nevada Development Authority, is our 4-county region. So Douglas County, Carson City, Churchill County, and Lyon County are the 4 counties that participate in a regional cooperative economic development partnership. And I think it's really effective because we're able to identify who has what strengths and weaknesses and how do we align the business interests in the area and relocation, expansion of businesses, and meet those needs effectively for the region as a whole. And it also puts us in a position where we're not competing against each other. So we're not trying to take a business away from Carson City or vice versa, that we're trying to complement the strengths and weaknesses that we all have. So NNDA is a key partner in that regard. We're doing some really positive things, Several hundred new jobs have been created to the tune of over 700 jobs in the past few years. Over 50 plus companies have relocated to Douglas County. Many of them small businesses that have great potential for expansion in the future. We're focused on the areas of leveraging the Sierra Pacific megapolitan region. So we're not just looking at Douglas County and kind of northern Nevada, but we're looking out at the Bay Area, Sacramento, to really identify how we could relocate businesses and how we have customers throughout this region that we're trying to service. We're highlighting manufacturing, promoting healthcare initiatives. We're focusing on agriculture. It will be a key. We're kind of doubling down on agriculture and saying it's not just something that is there and we'll continue doing. It's something that really we need to invest more and more in because of the demand for homegrown goods. We're bolstering our business information systems, the high-tech type businesses like Christech, Interconnects, and we're building these partnerships regionally to really tackle the economic development needs. So we're pleased where we're going. We still have a relatively high unemployment rate in Douglas County and throughout Nevada, and so that's a challenge, but I'll tell you, generally from a local economic standpoint, our building permits are up. Last year we had over 100 residential building permits. Halfway through this fiscal year, we're at over 62 residential. So we're on track to be at about 120 residential permits compared to 100 last year, and it was about 60 or 70 the year before that. So you see this trend of increasing number of both residential and commercial building permits, which are a leading indicator of future economic growth and positive economic health locally. So good things going on, and I think we're more than cautiously optimistic about our local economy. I think we're really starting to feel like there's some positive things going on in the business community, and there's really positive activities in terms of revitalization of our downtown corridors to create more Main Street friendly environments.
Well, we are in a very advantageous position here in Douglas County. I mean, geographically, so close to California,
right,
where we are very appealing to California businesses. I mean, we have a lot of benefits being in Nevada, and it's very close to California where a lot of the people have their markets and things. So, yeah.
That geographic proximity to California, the low tax, low regulatory or reasonable regulatory environment that Nevada provides, and then the uniqueness of Douglas County that we have 18% of the Lake Tahoe shoreline. You have access to Heavenly and
Sure.
Lake Tahoe and the beaches, and then you have the beautiful Carson Valley and the affordability of housing and jobs that are available in the Carson Valley. It's unique, I think, in the state of Nevada, and we're a leader in that regard in terms of the attraction for businesses there. And then it's certainly attractive to those in California who have just realized that the high cost of taxes and regulation and everything is really difficult to bear.
Sure. Well, now the fun one. Commissioners made appointments to various community boards, and we have quite a few there. And let's go down the list and maybe give a brief description of what each board does, and then name the people who were appointed to it.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. The first was the 911 Surcharge Advisory Committee. 911 Surcharge Advisory Committee manages the fees that are collected on cell phone and telephone bills for 911 purposes, and they invest those funds or approve investment of funds for purchase of equipment and replacement of equipment. There were 2 vacancies. Bruce Beamer is an existing member of the advisory committee, and he was reappointed. And Bill Driscoll was a new applicant, and he was appointed there. So Bruce Beamer and Bill Driscoll on the 911 Surcharge Advisory Committee. We had the Airport Advisory Committee. Most folks are familiar with that, which
Sure.
deals with promotion, marketing of the airport, deals with noise-related issues, which we have not had many of. We're doing what we said we would do several years ago. We're walking the talk and really operating an airport that maintains the rural character of Douglas County, supports the economic vitality of our community, and really invests in sport, aviation, and soaring. So we had 4 vacancies and 4 reappointments, or for applicants who are currently on there. Alfred Brown, Howard Charney, Bill Chernock, and Linda Mae Draper. Many folks know those 4 individuals. They were all reappointed to represent the soaring community, the business community, the community at large, and the powered aircraft community. Then we had the Board of Equalization. There's 1 vacancy there and 1 Appointment, Board of Equalization, of course, deals with any appeals or concerns from people related to their property assessment. And Mark Huseman was the current appointee. He reapplied and he was appointed to that one vacancy. Then we had the Genoa Historic District Commission, which of course reviews improvements and development and signage and things in the historic town of Genoa to make sure that it maintains that historic integrity. There were 3 vacancies, and we had 4 applicants. So the board had to make a decision here. They reappointed Robert Centani and Marianne Vassar, and the new appointment that they chose was Becky Pappenfort. So we are pleased with that. And then we had the Parks and Recreation Commission. There were 3 vacancies here and 5 applicants. So Britta Swanson is a current member of the Park and Rec Commission representing the Tahoe Township. She was reappointed. Celeste Perini represented the Carson Valley. She was reappointed as well. And then the third was for a Carson Valley spot, and Gary Dove was appointed on a 3-2 vote by the board. And Elaine Flynn was not reappointed there. We want to thank Elaine for her service to the Park and Rec Advisory Committee over the past several years. We had the Planning Commission. There were 2 vacancies and 4 appointments, or 4 applicants. Jim Madsen and Margaret Pross were reappointed to their spots on the Planning Commission, and so that was done on a 4-1 vote. I'm sorry, Jim Madsen was done on a 4-1 vote, and Margaret Pross was done unanimously.
Okay.
Senior Services Advisory Council reviews senior services and is engaged in everything, particularly the Community and Senior Center. We had 3 spots open and 3 applicants. Bob Cook, Paul Lockwood, and Michael Olson were reappointed. We had the Water Conveyance Advisory Committee, which deals with use of water in the Carson watershed. 3 spots and 3 applicants: Dennis Jensen, Russell Scosa, and Fred Stodik. And then we had the Western Nevada Development District, and they deal with pursuing federal grants for economic development purposes, and the board appointed Mike Dunn to serve as a business representative there.
Okay.
So those are all the appointments. I know that gets kind of lengthy, but really appreciate everyone who applied and everyone who volunteers their service on these various boards and committees for Douglas County.
Okay, and then commissioners themselves had several appointments to various boards and committees. I don't know if you can go over the whole list, but you can attempt it anyway, I guess.
I can try. Yeah, a lot of appointments here, and the board, this is part of their role as commissioners as they go out and they serve on different community boards and coalitions and committees. Commissioner Bonner is on the Carson Valley Chamber and Visitors Authority, the Carson Valley Arts Council, that's a new one, the Debt Management Commission, the Lake Tahoe South Shore Chamber, the Law Library, the Nevada Association of Counties, he's the alternate there, Western Nevada Development District. Commissioner Johnson is on the Carson Water Sub-Conservancy District, the NACO board appointee from Douglas County, the Nevada V&T Railroad Commission, Nevada Works as the alternate, Nevada Land Transfer Task Force. Commissioner Lynn is on Campo, the Carson Water Sub-Conservancy District, the Regional Transportation Commission. Commissioner McDermott, get ready, this is a long one, is on the Joint Powers Waste Management Board, the Lake Tahoe Visitors Authority, Lake Tahoe South Shore Chamber alternate, NTCD alternate, Regional Transportation Commission, State Line Stormwater Association, Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, that's a big one, Tahoe Transportation District, Tahoe Douglas Visitors Authority. And Commissioner Penzel is on the Carson Water Sub-Conservancy, Carson Valley Chamber and Visitors Authority alternate, Carson Valley Arts Council alternate, Law Library, Nevada Tahoe Conservation District, Nevada V&T Railroad alternate, and Northern Nevada Development Authority.
Well, bravo.
And I need a break.
Good job.
They might need a break. So a lot of activity. I think that's something important for residents to understand as they elect our commissioners. Not only do they serve to make big policy decisions, allocate funds for the county, but they also are very active in these different roles throughout the community.
Okay. One more item from that meeting was commissioners discussing a proposed draft bill jointly sponsored by Senators Heller and Reed to provide protection to the sage grouse habitat.
And this was, the board just wanted to talk about this bill. They're supportive of the effort. I think that Senator Reed and Heller are working, as we all are, to try and get out in front of the sage grouse issue, to try and proactively deal with it and manage the habitat effectively without having the sage grouse listed and all the impacts and the potential restriction to public lands as a result of that. So the board was supportive of that draft legislation and the efforts from our senators in Nevada.
Okay, and we'll be hearing a lot more about this.
Yeah, this is a big discussion. We'll talk more about as it evolves.
Okay, so now it's a preview of the next meeting. I'm not sure, do you have an agenda yet?
We do. Actually, we had agenda setting this morning. It's going to be a light meeting. The main topic will be a discussion on the allocation of available funds that were left over from last fiscal year 12-13. As we talked about our audit, we managed in the black, and in the general fund we had ended up with about $700,000 to the positive. One-time money that's available for allocation by the board, as we typically have had over several years. We manage our budget in the black, and so the board will discuss how to allocate those funds at the meeting, and we'll have some recommendations that are largely based on our priority-based budgeting model and the priorities that the board and the community has established. And so we'll talk about how to invest in supporting our employees who have taken significant cuts over the past several years and restoring some of those salary cuts one time, and looking at economic vitality initiatives, looking at a transportation plan update, investing in our Valley Vision and the pedestrian-friendly amenities we want in the Main Street area, our FEMA remapping process. So those are all things the board will talk about at that meeting. But that's really the primary item that they'll discuss.
Okay, and that is coming up January 16 at Lake Tahoe,
Right.
Douglas County Board of Commissioners. We have a couple minutes left here, and as always, we like to get a plug-in for that website. And anything new on there recently?
We're actually looking at doing sort of a, we just launched this website about 2 years ago,
That's
a year and a
about right.
half.
Yeah.
I think it was about a year and a half. It's been really successful, and more people, very user-friendly. We've done a lot of things like social media. We're on Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest, and we're looking at the other, I'm not even up to speed on all these things, but we have talented people in Douglas County who know a lot about the social media world, and we really have invested in that. We do a lot of communication with monthly newsletter updates. You can find all that. These videos, we do a 30-minute version and then a 5-minute quick version that you can find on our website to give people updates on all of these things. We post regular updates to the homepage on news, things that are going on. Two things I will plug. One, if you go to our homepage, it's douglascountynv.gov, and on the right-hand side, we have a Hot Topics category. And the first thing we have on there is our road funding task force. We created a task force of about 20 residents in Douglas County to volunteer their time, and I'm leading this group and helping to come up with solutions to funding our road maintenance challenges. So we have a lot of the information, who's on that task force, what we're doing, what's been presented at that group on there. We will be coming forward in March with recommendations from that task force that they're making to the county manager. The other one is on Lake Tahoe water rates, that we're having a big discussion on how to fund future capital investment and the water rates that are going to be adjusted there. Find all that information on our homepage and a lot of other interesting information. So you can sign up for our newsletters. You can sign up to get notified of when board meetings are and get our agendas for board meetings blasted to your email or text message. So there's no lack of information or ability to get access to that information. It's just dependent on your desire.
Okay, well, Steve, I want to thank you for all the information here.
Thank you.
On the County Manager's Report. That's County Manager Steve Mokrohiski. I'm Lloyd Higuera, and we'll see you next time on the County Manager's Report.